Hey gang, Dr. G, Imaginarium. So we talked about emotional relapse and what that is in the previous video, Mental Health Mondays. Today we're going to talk about mental relapse. Now, if you'll remember, emotional relapse very quickly is when you've been struggling with trying to avoid doing something, whether it's an addiction or something addictive that you're trying to get a handle on. You will feel emotional relapse when you find yourself exhausted, putting yourself and getting lost in everybody else's problems, not putting aside time for yourself, not being good to yourself, and not having any fun. If you're doing those things, you're at risk for emotional relapse. As you'll remember, relapse, often we think of relapse as you're fine, boom, then you suddenly relapse. But it's a process. It doesn't happen like all or nothing. And that means that you can prevent going down that path if you've got a really good handle on these principles. Now, this comes from an article by Stephen Melemis, a 2015 article in the Yale Journal of Biology and Medicine. It's a very, very good article on relapse prevention. And as you'll recall, this relapse and addiction, I don't just think of substances in that. I think of all kinds of things. Our society and our culture is absolutely loaded with addictions. So it's not just drugs or alcohol or any of those sorts of things. There can be many things that can be addictive. Video games, all sorts of stuff on the internet, just any sort of behavior that you're finding yourself struggling to be free of that you want to have a better handle of. So what is mental relapse? Well, in mental relapse, your past emotional relapse, you've drained your own resources and there's a war going on inside of you. Part of you wants to use, part of you doesn't want to use. And some of the signs that you want to keep an eye open for are if you find yourself craving, right? That's kind of a no-brainer. If you are thinking about things associated with the use or with the activity or with the whatever it is. If you're in other words, you're kind of coming at it at an oblique angle. You're thinking about the things that were associated with the stuff that you're trying to avoid. You can also catch yourself minimizing the consequences or glamorizing how much fun it was way back in the day when you could, just do whatever you wanted to do. You may find yourself scheming to control your use in the future. You may think, well, last time it was out of control. I couldn't really keep myself under control. But this time I think it can be different. You may even be looking for relapse opportunities, things that, well, if I did it this way, there wouldn't be as bad of a consequences. So you're deep in mental relapse if that's what's going on in your mind. And the problem here, of course, is that this is a high-risk situation for you. The next step from here for mental relapse is physical relapse. It means you're going to go back to the substance, you're going to go back to the behavior, you're going to go back to the whatever it is, gambling, who knows. And you don't want that. So what can you do if you find yourself in this position? There's a couple of different things you can work on. Number one is, and this one you want to be ongoing. Some of these are ongoing, some of these are like in the moment. In the ongoing sense, you want to be able to identify and avoid high-risk situations. Clinical experience shows that a lot of times people that struggle with various types of addictions have a hard time identifying high-risk situations, and or they have a hard time believing that those situations are actually high risk. They are good at convincing themselves that it's not that big of a deal and it won't be a problem. I should be fine. So that's one thing you can do constantly to kind of prevent finding yourself in mental relapse. Another one is you're going to have to remind yourself why you stopped in the first place. You're going to want to have a nice long list available for you to peruse. It might even be a good idea to write it down. It might be a good idea to put it on your refrigerator. Anything that'll help recenter you and kind of anchor you back in your original decision for health that you made in the first place. Another thing you may find yourself doing is giving yourself permission to use in certain circumstances, like, it's a holiday, or I'm going on a trip and I can use then, I can do whatever it is then. Airports, hotels, places where you're kind of by yourself and, there's a little bit less accountability because you're in this sort of anonymous environment. Those are high risk situations. So you want to be on guard for them That's when the risk for you is going to be the most. That's when the distorted thoughts are going to be the most challenging. And that's going to be when you're going to want to really rally yourself, be strong, stay strong, contact your sponsor if you're in a program like that, or someone that you trust that you've shared a lot of these challenges with. That can be the difference between success and failure here. Now, if these things don't change, if you don't adapt, if you don't do something to keep this path from moving forward, you're going to wind up in physical relapse. And that's where obviously you go back to the behavior, you go back to the substance, you go back to the whatever it is that you're trying to purge yourself of. And what do you do in that case? Well, that's what we're going to talk about next video. So that's what I have for you today. And make sure you like and subscribe and all the good stuff. Go check out ericgoodwyn.com for exclusive content, and you can kind of stay on top of what shenanigans I'm up to. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about my upcoming book as well, so we can find out more about that, because it should be available for pre-order pretty soon. And then, of course, after that, I've got all kinds of talk about my upcoming fantasy novel and the reasons why I wrote it, and what it's all about. So that's what I got for you today on Mental Health Mondays. See you guys next time.